Hey, everybody. Welcome to the TEConnect podcast. I'm John Martin.
And I'm Dean Reverman.
Dean, we are a little over, we're about a week away from when we were at VARTECH.
We are.
2024 in Orlando, Florida.
I almost have my voice back.
Almost, yeah.
Yes.
Understandable.
Yes.
I've almost caught up on sleep, but I don't,
Yes.
I don't know if that's happening
It's
yet.
amazing how much of an energy drain it is.
Yeah.
Because you have to be on. We have to be on like 3 days in a row. Boom,
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom. Yeah.
I know people are like, oh, it's just this 2-day show you guys do. Like, yeah, but we spend like months getting ready for it.
Yeah.
Days.
And you're on the advanced team, so you're down there like 3 days before we kick off.
Exactly. Days,
Getting stuff
leading
done.
up to it, all kinds of last minute checks.
The struggle is real, people.
Yes.
Yeah.
As we complain and moan about our little trip down to Orlando. As you're listening to this, it's been about 2 weeks since. Maybe we're in a little bit better shape by then.
Yeah,
we'll
I hope
see.
so. Yeah.
But hey, because we not all of our partners can go to VARTECH as much as we would love to have everyone down there.
Sure would.
We have a pretty packed full house as it is, and there's not too many places in the world that can even fit all of us as it is.
That's right.
So we figure, as always, we will do a little brief recap of the show, tell you about some of the stuff you might have missed, some of the stuff we learned, some of the stuff we saw and heard.
Maybe reminisce a little bit.
Yeah, a little reminiscing. Yeah. We'll throw a few clips in of stuff that you might not have not have seen. I mean, if you've been on social at all, following BlueStar or any of our partners, you've probably seen a billion photos and things about it.
Off the charts
I would apologize for that, but I'm not sorry.
Sorry, not
good
sorry.
Stuff, yeah. So we're going to talk a little bit about, what the show was like, what our themes were. We're going to talk about some of the big sessions that we did. We had some special guests and
we did
cool speakers.
Yep.
Once again, had some great partners come up and show up on stage and pitch their solutions and their partnership capabilities. Of course, we'll talk about what happened out on the expo floor, some of the new solutions that popped up out there, some of the fun stuff we did after hours. We got all kinds of stuff.
Man, it's 3 days worth of stuff to talk about. Yeah, there's a lot.
It's a lot to get into.
Yeah.
So, hey,
do we really do this? Do we do this every year?
Every year, apparently. and I'm sure we're already planning for next year.
Oh yeah, bring it on, baby.
It's time to plug in, revisit Orlando one final time, and stay connected. Wait, not stay connected.
Connected.
Get connected. Man, I'm botching my own intro to the show. All right, get connected, folks.
Welcome to the TEConnect podcast. It's time to get connected.
All right, if that botched opening wasn't proof enough that we're still trying to recover.
Yes.
Let's get into it, Dean. Let's talk
Mental
a little
fog,
bit about VARTECH 2024 in Orlando, Florida. We were once again back at the Rose and Shingle Creek. This is our third time there, I believe.
I believe it is. In the last 10, 12 years, something like that. Yeah.
At least 10, because I missed the first one 7 years ago. That was there. That would have been there.
Yep.
I was at the last one. That was 3 years ago? 2 years ago?
2. I think it's 2.
They all start blurring together after a while.
Yeah.
So we were back there again. This was September 16th and 17th. Dean, what was our numbers like this year? Do you have a little brief overview of how many people that we had attended, or a number of vendors, software companies?
So
give us the stats.
One of our goals going into this show was to have everybody at the same hotel. We bought out the Rose and Shingle Creek.
We have such dreams.
Every single room that was there, we bought it out. And we had hopes and desires to not have to overflow. What happened? Yeah, we had to overflow. So we had over 1,600 attendees. We ended up having to get another room block over at the Rosen Center. Thank God they had some additional space.
Right.
But it was off the charts. It was sold out. It was oversold. And then we were literally turning away exhibitors and stuff like that. So, which is phenomenal, right? I mean,
it's a good problem to have, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, we're blessed. It's a good show, and I think the channel understands its impact. So when you look at the numbers, though, so the 1,600 attendees, that's awesome. We had over 800 resellers that came. Of course, we send a significant amount of BlueStar folks down. We had nearly 170 of us down there. But really, the number that stuck out to me were the vendors. The amount of vendor representatives we had there. Close to 500 this year, which is more than we've ever had. You know, we usually quote unquote budget for or allocate for around 300, 350 exhibitor reps. So to be at 500, it's like, woof. Well, but that makes sense because we had the most exhibitors ever. We had nearly 130. The show floor was sold out. We literally had to turn down about 3 or 4 additional people that wanted to get in, and we're like, no, we just don't have any room for it. I could put you out in the hallway, I guess, but that wouldn't be any fun, kind of a thing. So we have to reevaluate that a little bit. But anyway, so yeah, good numbers this year. And the final number on the exhibitors, of those nearly 130, 52 ISVs this year. So
was that a new record too?
A really good, yes, it beats last year by 2. So just another good showing, and I think that it's a commentary on how much software is really getting involved in the industry and the channel plays. Number one, and number two, a lot of the emerging technologies that are happening, like the machine vision, the AI, the stuff that we always talk about. So that was represented on the floor.
Yeah, definitely.
So
yeah, lots of people, and if you were there, you knew there was a lot of people there. It was a full house everywhere you went at all times.
Yep.
All right, let's get into some of the actual, details of the whole program and how it all went down. So, of course, we always have these big general opening sessions at the beginning of both days to bring everybody together into one kind of unified message and discussion going on and get them hyped up for the day and going off to to see exhibitors and do education and all that kind of stuff. And day one is always is your show to run in the last few years.
My show?
Unfortunately, yes.
I get the short
because
straw.
You're in the spotlight to come out there and get everyone started off with a bang and hyped up. And this year, a couple things we did. One is we very much leaned into our theme for this year, which was space.
Yes.
And this idea of where ideas take flight.
Yes.
I don't remember which of us came up with that. I think maybe it was Cordy. I'm not sure. We all kind of brainstormed about like some of the ideas for what this show could be about, and we thought like, hey, space and getting a good idea together, and
I think the TED Talk helped on the
that's
ideas.
That's true. That's
front.
a good point. Yeah,
that
is a good point. That you're right.
Which we'll get to, I guess.
Their whole thing is ideas. So we leaned into the space theme because we knew we were going to the Kennedy Space Center, and decided, hey, let's build a little bit around that. So that was the prevailing theme that you kind of led off with, and as part of that, a couple things we did do there. You're right. One thing is we had the TED discussions, and we'll get into that a little bit more in a moment. But we also, as a special guest, had none other than Captain Kirk of the Starship Enterprise quite literally beam in to chat with us on opening day. So this was a collaboration with our partners at Proto Hologram, who had been at the show last year, I think.
Mass props to them.
And just have this really cool, hologram box setup thing where you can use it to communicate over distances.
They do.
Or, do marketing or show off, like showing off like clothing, for instance, can be done through that, like modeling type stuff or whatever. And one of their clients is William Shatner. And so we had been in discussions about this for a little while, but I don't think it was only maybe about 2-3 weeks before the show that we
came together.
Legitimately, confirmed that he could do this. And all props in the world to William Shatner. The man is 93 years old.
Yes.
And mind you, we were doing this at 8 a.m., a little after 8 a.m. East Coast time. He was out in Los Angeles.
He was in a studio in L.A.
So at around 5 a.m., and he showed up to come in and to do a little bit of banter with you.
So with a bunch of people, he has no idea who we are. Why are you dragging me out of bed? Yes, right.
And of course, because I am who I am, when I heard that this was going to happen, decided to insert myself into the show at this point as well.
Yes. Funny how that works.
Playing.
When the writer can write himself into a
I mean, you're like, all right, we're going to get Shatner. We need you to write some dialogue for him. And I'm like, okay. So, hey, there's this guy named John's going to come up on stage at one point and geek out with him for a few minutes. Total made-up character, not anyone you know.
Yes, no.
Not based on in any way on my own reality.
Yes, no. Right.
So that was cool. That was a neat little thing that we did there. And it was, just a quick little 5-minute bit. In fact, let's roll a quick little clip from that bit with Shatner.
Thank you so much, Bill. I mean, Mr. Shatner. I know you're really busy. So
I am busy.
Whoa.
I'm very busy.
I got to talk to Captain Kirk.
Okay.
Here we go.
Hi.
Hi.
So, Which Bridge of the Enterprise was your favorite? Was the original from the 1960s series?
Come on.
Was it the refit for the motion picture in Star Trek 2? Or was the Enterprise
No,
A from 4, 5, and 6?
Wait a minute.
What does Romulan ale actually taste like? Did you get to take any of the uniforms home with you? I'm partial to one of the red jacket with the little flag that goes down.
Yeah, Bill.
Dean.
I'm sorry. We
Yeah.
do have nerds at this convention.
Yeah.
John, what are we doing here, man? We got a show to put on.
I can't miss this opportunity. It's Bill. It's Shatner. It's Captain Kirk.
No, we got a show to put on here.
All right, fine. Well, hey, can I at least get an autograph?
Well, I'm not there. It's a hologram. Get a life. Bye-bye, everybody. Have a great birthday.
John, come on, man. I got a show to put on here.
see you, folks.
Everybody, William Shatner, put your hands together.
All right, that was fun stuff.
That's once in a lifetime. I mean, come on.
I mean, how do you not, take advantage of that and have some fun with that?
You
And
have to.
Thanks so much to Bill and to Proto for making that happen for us. We appreciated having that.
Absolutely.
Another part of the morning also is, this was obviously our first VARTECH after the loss of Steve Kuntz.
Yep.
And we had to, find some way to honor his memory and the original VARTECH.
The original VARTECH.
You
I mean,
know?
we knew going into it would be difficult not having Steve there.
Yeah,
As the
exactly.
original VARTECher. So
Yeah. So, I think it was the Cinecast team helped us put together a video, right?
Yep.
Was that? Yeah. So they put
Yep.
together a fantastic video, tribute to him. And you spoke some words after that, and the crowd was very much into it.
I mean,
Emotional.
the lead into it was talking about we're also celebrating our 95th anniversary, and a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't know that our name is United Radio. Right. We do business as BlueStar. So we felt it was important to kind of reflect on the 95-year history that we have. And that parlayed really well into telling Steve's story about how he bought the company in 1992 and really kind of forced the evolution into where we're at today by building up some core principles that we run the company on. So it was just I think it was really well executed. Thanks to you for scripting it. Yes, Cinecast for developing the video based on the words that we had created, and it was a good homage, I think, to Steve and rightfully to do that, right? Yes. Being the first one that he wasn't around.
Yeah,
so,
very much so.
Yep.
And then we concluded that opening session with a TED discussions.
Yes.
How did that come together, by the way? I know there's always a lengthy process of us trying to figure out who our
it was
keynote
Cordy.
is going to be. Was that a Cordy thing? Okay.
Cordy's like, what do we do a TED Talk? And we're like, yeah, right. You can't, they don't even do that, right? So we picked up the phone, we called him, emailed him, whatever.
Right.
And had the conversation with him. And indeed they do. TED, they call it TED conferences. They have different branding of the TED.
Right.
So technically it was a TED conference that we did. And we had to negotiate with them because their original pricing was a little outlandish, and we're like, oh, geez, we can't afford that. But we worked with them; they worked with us. We came to an agreement, and the process was really kind of cool because they call them TED Fellows. So anybody who has spoke at a TED Talk, in essence, is a TED Fellow. Where so you have this by now. You have this massive pool of people. Now, of course, we can't afford the Elon Musk and the Zuckerbergs and the of the world that have done TED Talks before.
True.
But they have a whole host of folks that are. So we knew that we wanted to do something. We wanted to lean into the space thing, right?
Yeah, right.
And then we also wanted something that was a little bit different, a little bit unique and outside of the box. And I think we got both. So we were able to get two TED Fellows to talk, to give their presentations, and anybody who's seen a TED Talk, they're usually in the 10 to 15 minute span, right? That's what their TED Talk, that's what they gear it towards. That's kind of their shtick.
It's a nice, insightful nugget, like deep, but not, excessively deep and excessively long. Yeah.
Yep. And then a Q&A afterwards.
Right.
That we were able to do. So they gave us a lot, a pretty good list of people. We went through a couple rounds of trying to find the right person. Or people, and we ended up with Tim and Erica.
Yeah. So that was Tim Lebrecht. He's he describes himself as a business romantic.
Yes,
and his idea of bringing humanity into the world of business.
Yeah.
And then Dr. Erica Hamden, who is an astrophysicist who had worked on a couple very fascinating satellite projects that ultimately were not super successful, but that was a big part of her story. Was this idea of going out there and trying to accomplish something, and then failing spectacularly, but still making an effort to do it again, failing one more time, and still being committed to what she wants to do and how she wants to approach this. And both they they were kind of different messages in a way.
Oh, totally.
But they both also then very much, I think, fit with what we always are trying to do at VARTECH, which is the idea of bringing people together, building partnerships, understanding the humanity of people, and that can be, we talk about this a lot with with our VARs and how they go out to end users and understanding who they are and their business, what they're trying to accomplish. And and again, chasing the humanity within business in order to find those connecting points to build your business and grow together as partners. And I think Tim did very much to accomplish that part of the mission. And then Dr. Hamden's part was about sometimes you go out there and you fall flat on your face.
Yeah.
You put all this work and effort and you fall flat on your face, and you just got to pick yourself up and just go right back after it again.
Yeah.
And you might still fall on your face again, but with enough persistence and perseverance, you can get where you need to go over time. What were your thoughts on these two? Is there anything that really stood out about their
Absolutely.
Their
And to me, it's always fascinating to watch really intelligent people give passionate conversations around things that they do.
Yeah.
And that came through with both of them. So, I thought Tim did a fantastic job, a very unique keynote for VARTECH. I mean, usually, sometimes we have sports people. We like to have good storytellers is what we tell people, because we don't really feel like there's a need to motivate the audience. They're all motivated people in the sense that these are all business owners and stuff like that. So we want somebody who tells a good story. But Tim came in with a completely different angle. But it was one of those things that I think were on a lot of people's minds. Like, AI is starting out there. You got LLMs. Now, even we are talking a lot about robotics that we'll get to. So it's like this, okay, what's happening in our society and how are things changing? And Tim's message was very much that, you got to keep the humanity in your businesses. And he had 4 points, do the unnecessary, create intimacy, be ugly, and remain incomplete. I mean, I thought he did a really good job of kind of highlighting 4 areas that you just bring the humanity back to your office, because the beauty of, I think, what was the phrase that he would use? The beauty of people, or people are going to do the beautiful things. You can use AI to automate and things of that nature, but people still bring the beauty into work and what is done. So I thought it was a fantastic message what he did. Yeah. Do you agree with Tim?
I completely agree. I appreciated what he brought to that. Those 4 points you mentioned, I think that's fantastic, because the stuff like the be ugly and remain incomplete, I feel like that's stuff that everyone is always like, no, we're not allowed to do this. You know, like we have to, everything's got to be
He had great
perfect.
stories on that too.
Yeah, everything's got to be perfect. Everything's got to be smooth. You can't go out there and run out there without being ready and without having all your ducks completely in a row. And I think sometimes that holds businesses back. It holds people back sometimes. If you expect to go out and be perfect before you put a message out into the world, before you go out and try to win some business, before you put a solution out there, by the time you reach perfection, you might have been left behind already.
Right.
Someone else may have come along and already beat you to it.
Yeah.
And
So
I
the
think that was a
drive to
powerful message.
remain incomplete, I think, is a nice way to kind of put a bow around that. Because if you think of yourself as being complete, well. Now,
where do you have to go?
Where do you have to go?
What's left to do? Yeah.
So no, you're never
stagnant,
you're never complete. You're always remaining incomplete. So again, I thought it was a fantastic message. Now, Dr. Erica Hamden, we knew. I mean, when you get an astrophysicist on stage, it's like, I don't know, I'm kind of geeky around space and stuff like that. It's like, this is cool. I mean, she deals with, this is what she thinks about all day, every day. Yeah. So to hear her tell her stories, really cool.
Yeah, I loved the in the Q&A portion too.
She got the most questions.
She did. Like, a lot of it was like the moderator, Cindy, kind of asking questions of them. But then, we opened it up for the audience, and that not many people at first were, but a few people that did. And a lot of them were talking directly to Dr. Hamden and had questions for her. In fact, there were some very insightful questions. Like somebody asked a nice detailed question about like the impact of commercialization on the space programs and how that's and using that as like a broader story about when business meddles in the world of science and innovation, and is that a good or a bad thing sometimes?
Right.
And I thought she had some really wonderful,
really
insightful
answers.
That.
Yeah. I think we're going to post this. So if you're listening, if for those of you that are not able to go to VARTECH, we will post this opening session. I thought it was very insightful. And then, of course, somebody asked, well, do we need to get off this planet? And what are your thoughts about going to Mars? And her answer was, well, the sun's going to be a lot hotter than it is in 600 million years.
At some point, we're going to get consumed by the sun. So as long as we still exist, we are going to have to get off board at some point.
Yeah, the oceans are going to boil off. So, we kind of need to get out of here within the next 600 million years.
Yeah. And see, that's part of, I, like you, I'm a space geek too. And like, I felt like, granted, I know we've got plenty of terrestrial problems to deal with, and people
for sure.
sometimes have
Right.
looked at the space programs and been like, "Why are we putting this much effort and time into this?" But
I've always been a fan.
But I'm always been a fan of like, hey, it can never hurt to explore beyond where we are because again.
Sure.
While yes, those billions of years in the future may seem like so far off, like why should we care right now?
Yeah.
You never know when something might happen that might accelerate that a little bit, So
Hey,
it's never
we
a bad
found this
idea.
asteroid that's 5 years out. Oops.
Never a bad idea to explore your options and,
Now,
and
before
be prepared.
Absolutely. Before we leave the opening session, though, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up our Florida man shtick, which was good.
Yes.
And thank you to those that we rubbed a little fun, on stage. Some
Yes.
former employees and a guy that's in the industry, Craig Kalibi, that was very kind to allow us to poke a little fun at it.
Yes.
Yes. Florida man.
Yeah, if
That
you're not,
was- which was your idea, which was brilliant.
Well, yeah, because if you're not familiar with those memes, and most people probably are, you just go, Google Florida man. In fact, there's even supposedly there's a meme out there, or a process out there. If you just Google Florida man and like your date of birth or a specific date, you are guaranteed to find a news story about a Florida man or woman. It can be either one, but it's often men that have done something insane or stupid or crazy.
Yep.
And gets a story written around that usually starts with the headline "Florida man," and something insane, bizarre after it. So it's fun stuff,
Good
and
stuff.
we had some fun with that. We showed some of the legit stories, and then we, with a little help from Cordy and his, mid-journey AI skills or whatever, crafted some additional stories, poking fun at folks that we know.
And I got one more story for you that going back to Shatner, because that was just, we knew that this was going to be something very, very cool.
Right.
But the lead up to it, there's a lot, even though it may look smooth on the outside, behind the scenes. So just to give people a little bit of inside baseball, we never practiced with Shatner.
No,
we
not
never
at all.
saw him until game day, until right before we go on stage. So, we do this, you have to do a tech test. So we actually were down in the room at 7:00 in the morning testing with LA just to make sure that the video and the audio
just one of Proto's
was
employees.
right.
Yeah.
And there were some issues around that. So
Yeah.
it's like 7:20 and we still don't have it synced, and we're opening the doors at 7:30. It's like, oh my God, is this thing really going to pull out? We finally get it done. God bless the people at Cinecast for figuring that out, Anthony specifically.
Yep.
So we got it figured out. And so we open the doors, and now, you got to fast forward about an hour because we don't actually kick off the show until 8:30. Well, it was very comforting to me that the tech that Proto Hologram had brought over his phone, and on his phone I can see William Shatner sitting in the studio, and he's basically giving me the visual thumbs
hey,
up
we got him.
right before we're walking on stage. I was like, whew, okay, so I think this bit is going to happen, because it was a little touch and go there for a bit.
I know, it would have been a little awkward if you were like, please welcome William Shatner, and then somebody just kind of pokes their head and goes, "Oh, so sorry, Bill."
No, it's Izzy, the tech
Izzy,
there, who is definitely not William Shatner.
Maybe he could have played a convincing Shatner for us. He was playing it up, reading from the script. He
was.
when
He was
we were
trying.
doing test runs with him. So,
Good stuff. Good
maybe
stuff.
he could have pinch hit there. So.
That's right.
But yes, if you ever wanted to understand what goes into these shows and realize how much scrambling is happening behind the scenes, and
it's like
sometimes
a doc, man.
literal last minute improvisations and changes.
Oh, for sure.
That morning was definitely one where I think we were on the more nervous than usual side of
a little on the edge.
Are we going to pull this off, and is this going to work out the way?
By the way, I didn't have a plan B, so if William didn't show up, I don't know what I was going to do.
I think you could have improvised.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Maybe I just would have come around out and do my shtick anyway.
Thank you. Yes, right. We're just going to do this.
I could have pretended to be Shatner. Hello, everybody. Welcome to VARTECH. He doesn't really talk that way anymore, though.
He doesn't.
Like as he's aged, he doesn't have that exaggerated.
Well, you wrote the script, so I gave him a little bit of that, and I think he picked up on it a little. To go strange new worlds, and
oh man, good stuff.
Good stuff.
All right, so let's talk a little bit quickly about the expo. You know, as we always used to affectionately call it, Code Zone. We've kind of thought this year, like, hey, that doesn't really make a lot of sense because not that barcoding is not still a huge part of what we do, but there's a lot of other stuff happening out there, so it's more of an exposition hall, in a sense. So, what did you feel was the vibe out on the floor this year when you got out there? How did you feel about you mentioned we had obviously more exhibitors than ever.
Yep.
I will say though that space never feels like overly packed though. It's a good large space, and you know, even for as many exhibitors we have, like I never felt like anybody was like crammed together and no room to maneuver. But what was your feeling on the vibes out there?
Well, I mean, the feedback that we're getting was that the floor was a buzz unlike any other year in the past. You usually get that on day one, right, where everybody feels nice and busy and a lot of energy, but that carried all the way to the bitter end.
Yeah.
And I don't know that that's ever, I don't think it's ever happened on a VARTECH floor. I don't think that's ever happened in an expo that I've gone to, not just ours, but like other shows. Everybody knows that day two, it's like a little sleepy. It's, you know, the vendors are mostly checking their email. Not really engaging with folks, so the energy was...
They've given out all the giveaways and the goodies.
Exactly, yeah. So the energy was very, very unique this year, and I don't know what it attributes to it. I don't know if we had a slightly younger crowd, we had more people. I just think, you know, there was just a really, really good energy on the floor, which was my biggest takeaway.
Yeah, I'm always doing the announcements out there on the floor, letting people know, you know, like, hey, lunch is served, or hey, you know, time's coming to an end, or go check this out or check that out. And normally, when I do my last announcement, which is usually about like anywhere from half an hour to 15 minutes before we get ready to shut it down, you can tell it's starting to already to thin out.
Yeah.
This time when I went in there, I think with about half an hour left, like you would have thought it was still the middle of day one.
Yeah, right.
Like it was just as packed as ever, and people weren't, you know, inclined to. Now, granted, as always, you give that announcement and let people know that stuff's coming to an end, and people said their goodbyes, made their way out, and we got that thing shut down and wrapped up, you know, tightly like always. But you're right; it was an incredible amount of energy that was still going on all throughout day one and two, which I thought was pretty impressive.
Absolutely, and kudos to our sales teams, international sales teams, because they're the ones that are tasked with making sure that their customers, you know, walk around and appreciate and get to interact with some of the new stuff that we have on the floor. I mean, we had a lot of robots on the floor, for example. We had floor sweepers to delivery robots to everything. And so, you know, there was a lot to see.
Right.
And so, you know, again, kudos to the sales team for helping enable that.
And also give a quick kudos to our exhibitors out there, too, because they,
for sure,
a lot of them leaned very heavily into the space theme this year.
Big time.
TSC had like a literal
Fantastic
spaceship
booth.
design to their booth.
Absolutely
they were all wearing like astronaut costumes.
Yep.
You know, you had other folks wearing like full on astronaut gear. The giveaways were all like alien space themed. Like, you know, there's always used some kind of a theme usually, and sometimes you'll see some of the exhibitors lean into it. But I felt like more than ever, everybody
was
on board
leaning into it. Yeah,
with
for
like,
sure.
Yep, let's do the space thing.
Absolutely,
here, so.
Yeah. And thank you for all those that did that.
Yeah, no doubt. We very much appreciate that, because it's not like we were like, hey, you guys got to do this space theme thing.
No,
you know, it's more of like a, hey, you know, we know you're putting a lot of investment to come here and do this anyway. Do what you feel like you want to do, and they all went above and beyond.
They
did to make it even more special.
For sure.
Let's talk quickly about day two. So the day two general session, we usually last several years have had what we call TEConnect Live, where we have our newest ISV partners that are new to the show come up and pitch themselves for 90 seconds, basically, you know, a little elevator pitch about who they are, what they do. You and I typically host this and try to have a little bit of fun built throughout. We usually intersperse it with like some commercials and other presentations. Intel has been sponsoring this for a couple of years, so they usually do some stuff there. Well, this year, I don't know whose idea this was. We decided to turn it into TEConnect Live Plus and add even more layers and levels of complication to it. That actually turned out very well. So in addition to the ISVs, which I think we had, 12?
Yes.
Maybe,
13.
13,
I think,
okay.
technically. Yeah.
In addition to those, we also had multiple like solutions, like vetted solutions, where we brought out partners to talk about full-on solutions that already existed, were ready to go to market, had, you know, hardware support, and, you know, and had already been deployed, to talk a little bit about how those came to be, what they had to offer, what, you know, verticals they should go into. So more than just a, hey, we're here and we're hoping to get some business with you and go out and you know, win some new customers. For instead, you know, hey, here's some folks that have already done it, have made it happen. We've been through this with them. We know what they have to offer. We know what they can do. Let us show you how they can partner up with you as well. So we did that all, again, just one big combo thing. We also interspersed some cool videos that we did. You know,
pat ourselves on the back,
about BlueStar and some of the cool things we do, and
stuff people don't know.
The people that work for us and the things that we can do that people just didn't know about. And then also, you know, again, Intel came through and showed off some of their partners as well. So it was a packed show. I got to come back out and reprise my role as Mr. John Schaus.
Yes, Mr. Chaos. Schaus. Yes,
from our little video where we showed off our robotics automation earlier in the year. You and Courtney did a fantastic job setting all that stuff up. What did you feel? How'd you feel about day 2 and the ISV showcase as well as all the vetted solutions that came out there?
Yeah, I thought it went really, really well. I love the plus in the plus. It was harder to pull off for sure.
Is that gonna be an ongoing thing now?
I don't know. We got to make that decision here soon, but I did like the deeper dive. I mean, it gave us the opportunity. So the new ISVs, they did a great job. Every single one of them did a really, really good job of just doing their 90-second pitch, and that was pretty flawless.
Right.
And we got a special one to talk about here in just a second.
I will mention that in a moment. Yes.
But the solutions, the deeper dive solutions, I thought really went well. We had one company, Mobile Insights, that's using AI LLMs like in retail space. So when you go up to a kiosk, for example, you can actually interact with it.
Right,
you can ask questions. Really, really fascinating. We brought up Pico MES, which is this company that for anybody who's in supply chain and doing like barcoding and stuff like that there, and wants to get a little deeper, wider within their manufacturing customers, really good solution to help them enable more everything from education platform to more asset tracking within it. So I thought that was cool. I thought Intel did a fantastic job because we really gave them a block for machine vision. Machine vision is like top of mind for a lot of people. So to me, I thought the best solution they were showing was something called Pressy Taste, where you're taking camera information on just say you're at a Chipotle, and if you walk up to a Chipotle, right, you can see all the product out there. Well, that uses AI camera technology to inform management when stocks are going low of particular items on the prep table. Right. So, and it's just really cool, right? Yeah. But this is something like a POS reseller could install today. Yeah. I mean, it is a solution they can take them to market today. It was really, really cool. And then we wrapped it up by talking about some of the robotics things that we're doing with the Nexus AMR and the TechNexus program that we have. So we focused about 15 minutes on that. It's a big story to tell. Yeah. There's a lot of opportunities there, but I think the overview was enough to entice people to come to the show floor. And
again, we will post video of all this stuff if you would like to review these. Assuming that we have that stuff done, there'll be links in the show notes to go check that out. Yep. If for some reason that's not available yet, just keep an eye on our YouTube page, subscribe there, and you can find those videos when they post. But
who was the best one?
But man, okay, we got to talk about though. These ISVs. Like I always feel a little bad for them every year because we basically like, hey, we're bringing you in brand new to this giant show.
Absolutely.
You've got all these
most people are nervous in the green room, right?
And we're telling them then we're going to bring you up on stage and you got 90 seconds to talk about who you are and what you have to offer and why people should work with you. Yep. A lot of folks are very nervous and sweating about that. And again, it's a logistical hurdle that we have to go through to get folks where they need to be up on stage on time. Well, we had one particular that I have to shout out. This was Stephanie Podger over at Tego Inc.
Yeah, no doubt.
Who had, if I remember, the day before when we had a quick run through with them, we had them meet with us in the green room a day ahead of time just to run through the logistics of the show, have them meet the team, show them the stage and all that stuff. Yep. And she had asked, hey, can I have a standalone handheld microphone for mine? And I told her this. I told her this later when I ran into her on the Code Zone floor after the show. I was like, normally we don't like to accommodate these special requests because if we start doing it, everybody wants a special request, and it just becomes even a harder show to pull off. But she basically was like, I promise it will be worth it. And so we ended up getting her a handheld mic to use instead of the one that was on the podium that everyone else was using. Right. And it was justified because she walks out.
And we were curious. We were also a little faithful. We were like, what are you doing? They wouldn't divulge.
We didn't know anything about it. No. And and mind you, when we're doing the show on stage and you and I were, I was introducing the ISVs and doing some banter with you. Mm-hmm. I had Sam, our social media specialist, in my ear the whole time.
I didn't know that.
To give me updates as necessary about what's going on.
Oh, I knew that part.
And I kind of heard her mentioning something about, hey, we got Stephanie coming up. She's got something special, but it's one of those things where it's so hard to divide my attention between what we need to be talking about, what's happening on stage, and sort of listening in. So I knew something was up, and I was like, all right, I don't know what's going on here. Call her out on stage, and she's got like Victorian garb on.
Yes.
Which I'm like, okay, this is interesting. And she sets her stuff down and she mentions like, hey, since we are close to one of the happiest place on earth as in Disney, I thought I should do something a little bit special here. Proceeds to put a hat on and I suddenly realize she's Mary Poppins.
Yes.
And she starts singing. She sings her 90-second pitch to the tune of A Spoonful of Sugar.
Yes.
I think this is the point where we should run a little clip of this.
For we love our partners and we meet their needs. The customers are pleased. We're all financially appeased. Yes, when you work with Tego, you will plainly see our solutions meet your customers' needs. Come visit Tego at booth 17. We're practically perfect in every way.
Bringing down the house right there.
Wow.
Now that's how you do TEConnect Live right there.
I concur. You should have saved that one for last, Dean.
Yeah, right?
Thank you. Wow.
Well, that's not going to be hard to follow up.
No. Hey, good luck, Radius AI.
All right, so yeah, I mean, come on,
Yeah,
that was
right.
amazing.
Amazing. She
was
literally
sitting
brought
there-
down the house.
I was sitting there with my mouth hanging open the whole time.
Yeah.
I was no longer in character as John Schaus. I was just dazzled by this performance that she had just put on for us.
She nailed it.
She absolutely nailed it. And you're right, it was a perfect time too because we were kind of around midway through the show.
Yeah, right.
People start getting a little
You
little
need
bit
some
of the
energy.
lulls.
Yeah, right.
She brought the energy back up. Everyone was excited. I
absolutely.
think that fed through all the way to the end. We even brought her back on stage at the end to sing us off.
After that happened, I'm like, oh my God, we got to bring it back.
Oh,
up.
yeah.
So we snuck off stage during the Intel portion. I'm in Sam's ear, like, you got to get her back out here, and she's got to anything. She's just got to sing us off.
Right. And she did.
And she did.
And it was absolutely
Impromptu.
wonderful. So yeah, it was fantastic. She set a high bar that frankly I don't think anyone
really
else should
high
try to achieve.
Yeah.
But I love that she brought something different and a little new energy and exciting energy and
Yes.
definitely memorable. And in fact, like I said, I talked to her and I talked to a few other ISVs after the show out on the Code Zone floor, and a lot of them said like, man, our traffic is like doubled and tripled today from what it was yesterday.
Tego, you couldn't even talk to him after that.
Like people just wanting to come, and not just about, obviously, our performance was a big part of that, but like even the folks that just gave it a normal pitch were like, man, so many more people came up and were talking to us today. And to me, that's why we do this. It gives them an opportunity so they're not getting lost in the shuffle. Although I think we do a great job out on the show floor of interspersing them with, the big vendors and, putting them in places where they're very visible. But I think that, being able to go up on stage and do that helps them just, give a little bit extra push for people to come see them later and learn a little bit more about what they do.
For sure, yeah.
All right, well, let's run through the last few things here. So educational sessions, I didn't get to attend any because we're always so busy with so much other stuff. Obviously, we had our podcast recording that counts as one of those. I thought our podcast was the one we aired last week, went great.
Yep.
It's got some really good insights on web design. We've already had people reach out after that were there and say, hey, do me a favor, review my site. I sent one over to Cordy and, expecting him maybe to take some time before I got around to it. No, same day, he's like, here's my 15-point bullet plan for how you can fix your site. So don't hesitate to reach out if you are interested in that kind of stuff. Did you get to any of the other education sessions at all?
I did not, but I've got some information.
Oh, good.
That, besides, because, we're so busy, at doing that. And this is one of the aspects of the show that, thank you, Ray, for executing this, and Jason as well. They do such a fantastic job. But I thought it was good to look at, because we always have people sign up for what session do you want to have. So how to select and sell RFID was the number one session
I believe
picked, aside from the meetups that we'll get to in just a second. Ask the Expert Machine Vision, number 2. Ask the Expert Supply Chain Automation, number 3. Retail Customer Experience Solutions, number 4. And then POS, the latest technologies, number 5. So I just wanted to give you the top 5. All of those had well north of 170 people that signed up for each one of those. So to me, that's always a bellwether of because you and thank you for creating these every year, because I know it's difficult, right? It's like, well, what do people want to talk about? What are they?
How do we make POS new this year?
Well, which we always have to do, because there's always something to talk about in POS, right? Somebody's got some new thing that they want to talk about, but this is a good bellwether. So RFID, machine vision, and automation. Those are your top 3 that are on people's minds. I mean, I think this is a great.
Once again,
it's like a straw poll, right?
I think we've established it's the year of RFID.
It is. It is. That is true. But they had a variety of topics, payments to, big data to healthcare to digital displays. And we had, I don't know, it's like 12 to 14 different sessions that people can sign up for. So there you go.
And we usually have, 3 to 5 panelists that are in each of these that are, that are riffing all these topics. So
So anyway, I just wanted to throw out the top 5.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about meetups. You mentioned that a moment ago. So something a little new that we did this year is at the end of day 1, between those between our regional breakouts and the the evening event, we decided hey, let's have these meetup things.
Mm-hmm.
This was a Cordy idea as well, because you see this at a lot of other tech conferences where they have people meet up and just it's supposed to be kind of like a networking event, exchange of information. So we did 3 of these. We did one for ISVs, where again we had all of our ISVs in one room together, where people could come and chat with them. Learn a little more about them, see them grouped together by, vertical type.
Yep.
We had a business management one that you and Carrie Linkugel put together, and then Cordy and I did one on marketing. I'll ask you about yours in a moment, but I will say our marketing one was a lot of fun.
It looked like it was from the pictures.
Actually, one of the best parts of it is Cordy kicks it off by coming in and saying all right, folks, and we had a crowd of maybe I don't know, let's say 50 to 60 people total. He goes, how many people do you think signed up for this session? And people were 100, and he's like, it was about 300. He's like, so here's your first tip for marketing: don't believe the registration numbers. They don't necessarily mean anything. And from there, it kind of turned to this exercise where we did a Mad Libs thing. So this was another one of his ideas of a Mad Libs, where instead of blindly filling and stuff, although one table did do it blindly, and theirs was hilarious. Having people actually fill in people think marketing is blank, but it's actually blank.
Yeah,
and and just filling in stuff about what the role of marketing is, and kind of the idea that Cordy was pitching through this session was that marketing can be very lonely. Sometimes whether you might, I know for a lot of our VARs, sometimes it might be one person.
One person
all of the marketing,
for sure. Yeah,
or even when it's a team, sometimes it can feel a little bit isolated and lonely because you're doing something that's very different and separate from a lot of what else is going on in the business, and also acknowledging the fact that you're doing a kind of work sometimes that doesn't always have a very tangible or extremely visible through line to what your business is doing on the back end. It's hard to, and a lot of the folks in this session agree with that and said hey, it's hard sometimes to justify what I'm doing when I can't point to a sale and say, I did this because of our marketing, even though it very well might have been a connecting point at some point there.
For sure.
I thought that was a lot of fun. How did your guys' go, the business manager
That's
one?
cool. So I had the opportunity to stop by both the ISV and the business management one, even though I helped set up the business management. I wasn't there because I had, anyway.
Again, you're a busy guy.
Running late on something. But here's what I noticed. So the ISV one was great. Very well attended. The room was packed. Very similar to what we've done with the ISV Quick Connect in years past, where really the idea here is, and what we did is we just segmented the room into verticals. So, you got retail hospitality in one corner, you had healthcare, you had et cetera, et cetera. So the idea is if you're a reseller or a solution integrator walking into that room, you could, let's say you play in the supply chain space, you go over to the supply chain area and meet with the ISVs that we brought to, or that have come to the show and invested in it. And the whole idea is just to get exposure to new ISVs. So I think that went really, really well from what I could tell. And then the business management, the one that we did, we broke the room down into areas, of topics like HR or business development and things of that nature. And the idea was if you walked into the room, we had tables set up with on the tables were just discussion points, like some statistics around a particular thing like HR, and what's happening. So the whole idea was to walk in and talk with your peers about, let's say you're struggling with an idea on the HR front. And you wanted to talk through, some of your struggles or whatnot, or listen to what other people are doing. That was the whole idea. Went off really, really well. I think we had about the same amount of people in our room, 60 to 70, I'd say.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought the meetups were good. I mean, here's a really informal way, to get a little bit more information. And we were serving beer and wine, so the whole idea was kick back a little bit. We're towards the end of the day. Let's chill. Let's as a group, enable and foster dialogue to happen.
Right.
And I think it really
Which I
played
think
out
worked,
well.
and especially the end of especially end of like day one when it's been a long
day,
exhausting day.
Yep.
And a lot of times folks will just wander back to their hotel rooms and get ready for the evening event, and you don't see them. And we want to like, hey, what's something we can do to still keep folks potentially engaged during that time and keep them interested in something without it again feeling overly structured and a little too much. And I think this actually worked out really well and turned out to be a beneficial idea that people seem to really get excited about. Like I said, I felt the energy was great in our room. People were just having fun. It was a fun conversation, and it was nice also, I think, having a room full of marketers together and something like, and there's actually a few folks that weren't marketers there. There were a few sales folks that kind of popped in because they just wanted to hear about what we had to say.
What do those
too.
marketers do?
Yeah. But again, just, a good energy and a lot of fun. And I think we got out of what we wanted without it being like too like, all right, sit here and let's talk about this and show you a bunch of PowerPoints and listen to us talk for an hour here. So, all right. Well, hey, I would be remiss if I didn't wrap up by talking about our final excursion at the Kennedy Center. Kennedy Center, which honestly I had not been before because again I missed our first.
Never been there before?
Our first VARTECH we went to. I was not able to go to that one.
Oh,
so I had not been to this place. I was fascinated by how it was almost like a theme park.
It is.
I didn't expect that. Like I thought it was just.
What were you thinking?
I just kind of thought it'd just be like a big building where like they had some interactive displays and stuff or whatever, And I knew like the Atlanta
museum
shuttle was good. Yeah, exactly.
Like you're gonna walk into a museum.
Exactly.
There'd be,
I didn't realize it was more of like a theme park where there's a lot of like rides and simulators and fun stuff to play with. But let's be honest, the real highlight of this thing is. We just happened to go on the same night that SpaceX was doing a launch of one of their Falcon 9 rockets from the nearby Cape Canaveral Center. And was not expecting that.
Nope.
Because they were supposed to happen on Monday. That
Correct.
That launch was supposed to happen Monday, but it got scrapped due to rain. Pushed back. We weren't entirely sure it was still going to happen that Tuesday night either.
Yeah, no.
But, this is how awesome we are at BlueStar. We made a rocket launch happen, and we were all kind of just getting there. Yeah, we were all kind of just getting there as it was happening. Like I literally was in line for food with a couple colleagues, and I was keeping an eye on the launch time. I was like, all right, we got to a table. I just tossed my food on the table. Said, you guys watch this? I'm out. Ran outside, managed to get a quick video and watch the actual launch as it happened. But that was a pretty cool thing. I'd never experienced that before. It was neat to witness something like that. So,
for sure. And some people complain afterwards, like, well, why didn't you tell people that it was? I'm like, well, we don't have control over what NASA does, and we weren't going to promote something that.
Exactly.
I mean, what's the likelihood that happens? I know they do a lot of launches at the Cape Canaveral, but it's still kind of rare. And I don't know the weather conditions. I mean, actually, we drove through a pretty horrendous downpour to get to the Kennedy.
It was very cloudy. It was raining.
Oh, yeah.
I thought for sure. I'm like,
so I was thinking, I mean, I knew it was potentially could happen, but as we're driving out and 25 busloads of people, I'm like, yeah, this isn't going to happen. I mean, look at all these clouds and stuff like that. I get there and I'm on the last bus and we pull up and we had about 10 minutes to go, but we did have it, you can watch it online and it's doing the countdown. Like, as we're driving out and after we get through the rain, I'm like, oh, wait a minute, this really could possibly happen. We get there, we get off the bus, they have a viewing area and everybody, most people just gravitated towards that. Again, we're like, no, this isn't going to happen. Not until I actually got there and they got to like a minute. Right. And then it's like, oh, if they made it to T-1, we're doing this. Yeah. So, that was just, it was awe-inspiring to watch because I highly encourage anybody to go to see a rocket launch because what happens is we're about 8 miles away.
Right.
So, you see this upside-down candle and you don't hear anything. You just see this, and it's really bright light, and then all of a sudden the sound hits you, very much delayed, and it's like, it's what you hear.
I was amazed by how loud it was, even for the distance away that we were. I was amazed by that.
And everybody is absolutely silent. Like everybody's just watching in awe as it goes up into, and then it went behind a cloud, and then everybody erupts in applause. It was just, I mean, you couldn't have scripted anything better.
No, I could not.
Yeah, we're gonna go out to the Kennedy and watch a Falcon 9 rocket go.
It's funny, the video that I shot of it, you can hear a woman in the background like that worked at Kennedy Center, and this was as it it pretty much it crested and was like people were starting to finally the shock or the awe of it had worn off. People were getting back to it, and somebody said like, do you get used to it? And she goes, yeah, but it's still awesome every time.
It is such a feat of engineering to think that that's like however many tons of whatever these were satellites actually that were going off. It's just incredible.
Yeah.
And because that consumed about 45 minutes and we're only out there for like 3 hours.
Right.
Then people are like, oh man, how am I going to see the rest of it?
I know.
There's a lot to see.
I know. I didn't feel like I got
you
to
didn't
see.
You didn't even scratch the surface, did you?
Like I got to the Atlantis. That was the thing I wanted to see.
That was the big one.
Which, I thought that was very cool. It was awesome to actually see the space shuttle up close like that.
Yeah.
I did quickly did a couple of the simulators, and then it was time to get on the bus and head back.
Then we were back,
So anyway. I'd like to go back there again sometime and spend a little more time there and explore.
I recommend it. You can get through it in about, you didn't even go to the Hall of Heroes, did you?
No.
That's where I
didn't get to that.
That's like this big building. They have a replica of the command central that they had for Houston.
Yeah.
Like all the Apollo missions, all that gear is there. And it's so you can you're right behind. Anyway, they got a lot of cool stuff there.
Yeah, if you want to send me back down there for any reason,
we got to do a site survey.
Exactly. I'll happily go. All right, hey, before we wrap things up here, I want to shout out, as always, all the amazing folks who make this show possible.
For sure.
Again, our vendors,
Yep.
those exhibitors, those ISVs that show up for the show and do this every year.
All
We
the
appreciate
sponsors,
them.
for sure.
Big shout out to our BlueStar marketing team.
We do all this in-house, people.
We do. Yeah. We have some partners that help us out once we get there, but all the planning and putting everything together is happening here at BlueStar with our folks, our amazing team. I personally will give a quick shout out to our behind-the-scenes crew for TEConnect Live Plus,
Absolutely, yeah.
and our social media team.
Yep.
On the TEConnect Live side, let's see, back of the house, we have Sam, Sarah, Chris, Misty, Bree.
Yep.
Those are, you and I are just out there just being goofy out on stage.
That's right.
And,
That's right.
Reciting a script that we've rehearsed a few times over. They're back of the house wrangling all these presenters, making sure they show up where they're supposed to be. That
Just
they
20, 25 people get up on stage correctly.
That they get to the stage. They do a fantastic job. Absolutely love and appreciate them for what they did. And then our social crew, Sam led a social crew this year that really, Cordy challenged us to step it up a little bit this year and do some new stuff
Astronaut
during the
food
show. Yeah.
too.
So if you follow our LinkedIn or Facebook feeds, you probably saw they're out there having people sample astronaut food, which was absolutely hilarious. I was there with them, helping them take the food around. That was so much fun. They were asking people for their takes on the NFL.
Yep.
We asked people about what could they give a TED talk on.
Yes, I thought that was classic.
They knew enough about to give a TED talk. So really, really good stuff. I think
Good
that we
stuff.
were doing out there on socials to keep people engaged and just have some fun during the show.
Yep.
And then of course, shout out to Cinecast, Anthony and Ellie. Every time, I think I said this in my LinkedIn post, my follow-up post, that every time we go to these shows, and since I've been, involved in a lot of the stage production stuff, and it's always nerve-wracking, and it's always like, oh my God, how's this going to go? We're going to be able to pull this off. And then we get there. As soon as I see them and they start working through stuff with us, I always feel better.
Yep.
They always make
They had
things
even
so
bigger
much smoother.
challenges this year.
They did. They had a lot of logistical challenges, and you wouldn't know it. To see the show, you would have no idea how last minute some things came together.
Absolutely.
And how much they were scrambling behind the scenes too.
Brilliant.
Thanks to our friends at Stetson who helped set up all the booths and the show floor.
Yep.
And the Rose and Shingle Creek Resort for having us down there once again. And
yep. They're
all
great
this
people.
off.
And I got one more. Debbie Sons, she owns her own company that specializes in cruises and stuff like that. We hire her for the buses.
Oh, okay.
And that is like the unsung, it's,
No
it's
doubt.
like the dirty job that
It
nobody
is.
else wants. They're the first touch. When people land, that's the shuttle that they go on. Debbie arranges that. And then we had to get 1,500 people or so onto buses, 25 buses
Over to Kennedy.
within a half an hour over to the Kennedy.
And in time
it was
for a
13.
rocket launch.
In time for
Which
a
I'm
rocket
sure was
launch.
not part of their pre-programmed expectations.
Not at all. Not at all.
So
Anyway, thanks to Debbie.
good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, before we wrap things up here, let's as always, thanks so much to our TEConnect sponsors here on the show. We're just thanking all kinds of people here. If you like the show, you like what we're doing here, subscribe to the channel. Tell us what you want to hear about on the show. Tell us what you'd like to see or happen at VARTECH next year. If you
I was
attended,
just to say, you got a good VARTECH idea? Send it on in.
Send your feedback to us. Believe me, we'd love to have some external ideas.
Absolutely.
And just us sitting around riffing all the time on stuff.
That's right.
So send those ideas to us. There's always a link in the show notes for you to send ideas for the show or anything else BlueStar related to us. You can also email us anytime, TEConnect@BlueStarInc.com. All right, let's wrap things up here. A little value to the VAR here.
Yep.
So for the VARs that didn't attend,
Yes.
what do you think what was the big thing that you felt like you learned and heard about and experienced there that anyone can use whether they were at the show or not?
Well, I don't know if I'll put it in that context, but one idea that I think, I'm just going to go back to the word ideas, that, we really leaned into that whole idea of ideas,
right?
And the need for businesses to remain relevant through idea iteration. You have to come up with ideas. You have to think outside of the box. Going back to Tim, and kind of shaking things up about how your business interacts with technology, sparking ideas with other partners, potential partners. You can't stop doing that, or else your business is just going to kind of die. So that was the big takeaway for me, and I'm glad we leaned into it. I think we did a good job. I think people got that message around ideas and the need to continue to iterate.
Yeah. I was with you on that too. It's something I wrote down also, is that the idea of stagnation. It just won't cut it. You can't be stagnant anymore.
Nope.
Not that you ever should be stagnant anyway.
Right.
But I think it's, that was part of like what Tim's speech was there, was this idea of like, you can't settle for where you are. You've always got to be pushing and moving forward and thinking about the future.
Yep.
Partners, once again, mission critical. I think that was something that was continuously being illustrated at these VARTECs, how important partnerships are. For sure. And the last one, I think, I felt resonated a little bit, especially as we reflected on Steve's legacy, was the idea that past is prologue. That, where we've been and what we've done is not, the summation of all that we are, and that's it. That's who BlueStar is. It's more, or who the channel is, or who you are, or your partnerships, or any of that stuff. That what you've done in the past, it can just be, if you think about it in a certain way, the very beginning of a much bigger story that you're going to tell from here on out.
Nice.
There's a story to tell.
Yep.
You've no matter how long you've been in business and how much you've done, that story is still just beginning at this point. If you think of it that way and move forward.
Well said.
There.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right, let's wrap up as always with what's TEConnecting with you. This is
Yes.
our segment where we talk about something in the world of science, business, tech, innovation, just what's on our mind, what we're playing with right now, or talking about, or thinking about. So, what's TEConnecting with you?
Well, how does the phrase pocket-sized nuclear battery hit you?
You had a miniature nuclear reactor you've talked about before. Now we're going battery size too.
Battery. Pocket-sized nuclear batteries.
What happens when it melts down in your pocket?
I don't know. Up to 8,000 times more efficient than existing comparable technologies demonstrated by researchers. That was the headline. So the battery technology is developed in China in the Soochow University, which harnesses the energy of radioactive decay, a process associated with nuclear waste to generate energy. So researchers embedded americium, which is, I don't know what that is, in a specialized polymer crystal that acts like a transformer. It changes the fleeting energy that's alpha particles and stuff like that into a sustained green luminescence. And then once you have the luminescence, you can now grab that through photovoltaic cell and capture the energy. So there you go. If you don't mind having a little bit of nuclear waste in your pocket that is being harnessed and it's glowing, by the way.
There's probably worse things we stick in our pockets every day. Who knows what our phones are doing to us, like
glowing nuclear waste in your pocket. If you don't mind that, this could last for, by the way, these batteries theoretically last tens of years. I mean, I was thinking, half-lives and stuff like that. You're talking thousands of years. No, they say they can really only get tens of years out of this, but still, there you go.
Still,
I don't know that I've sold you on the pocket-sized nuclear battery.
I don't know. Battery. I mean, you are on this perpetual quest to find the perfect battery.
Yes. I am intrigued by battery technology.
I don't think I've ever talked about batteries more in my life than I have with you on this podcast.
There you go. Well, it's just fascinating, right? I mean,
it is.
We got to figure out how to harness this.
But
energy.
You're right. If we're going to move in the direction we want to move, with technology and with energy, we've got to figure out bigger ways to contain
fossil fuel. Only lasts so you can only frack so much. You can only
exactly. Going back to Dr. Hamden's thing, that's one of those things. There's a finite supply, and that's probably going to run out even before the Earth gets destroyed. So we've got to figure out something else. Yeah.
Well, there you go. So if you have something glowing in your pocket.
We're just happy to see you.
So what's TEConnecting with you, my man?
All right. So I'm just increasingly baffled by the ongoing down spiral of the platform formerly known as Twitter.
Okay.
Now known as X. Let's look a little bit at our history over the last few years since Musk took over the platform. So content moderation has essentially been rendered mostly non-existent.
Correct.
Which, has a lot of its own inherent problems.
Yeah.
Not long ago, they removed the ability to see other people's likes, so that now that, you can't find out if someone liked a post or what they liked or whatever, they took that away. And, the through line with that was like, okay, well, then now if someone likes problematic things, no one's going to necessarily know about that. Mm-hmm. It got banned in Brazil, which apparently there's some ongoing discussion about getting that back in play there again, but got banned for a brief time for some of their content moderation practices and for some, for disinformation being spread on the site. And now the latest thing, actually there's two latest things. There's one I just literally popped up this morning that I read about, but recently Musk announced that users would no longer be able to block others on the site. Now, this is not a complete release of being able to block anyone, but no longer being able to block them from seeing your posts. So in the past, if you blocked someone, they couldn't see your posts. They also could not engage with you in any way. They couldn't follow you. They couldn't, message you, any interactivity with you on the platform whatsoever. Now, granted, people could find ways around this. They could create burner accounts, and still get around this stuff. But either way, at least there was some attempt, some ability to be able to do that. But now, apparently, they want to take that away, where at the very least now you can still see everyone's post, even if you've been blocked. I
don't know why that's a bad thing. But
well, I feel like this is one of those things that just because there's, and again, at this point, if you're someone who doesn't want to be harassed or inundated with the worst the internet has to offer, Twitter/X is probably not a place for you anyway.
Absolutely.
You probably just shouldn't be there.
Absolutely.
But there are people that for their jobs and for journalistic purposes or whatever still need to be on the platform. And at least I can understand a little bit of hey, I'd like to make this as somewhat manageable as I possibly can. So I just feel like we're still kind of catering a little bit to the worst that the internet has to offer by just opening it up to free reign for everyone to play and do whatever they want.
You're not a fan of that.
I'm really not.
Yeah.
And it's not even a look. I understand that I understand free speech advocates. I get where those folks are coming from. It's just a simple fact of social media is, if you don't have some kind of moderation to it, just becomes something that's inherently stupid and pointless.
Yeah.
Which, granted, is probably where we're headed anyway.
Isn't that what a schoolyard is?
And why maybe
that's exactly it.
It might be why social media probably does need to start finally dying.
We'll have to have you steel man the moderation part then, because if depending on what you believe, the moderation didn't go well either.
Well, that's
because
true.
You were
it's
shutting
a good
down
point. Yeah,
lots of voices that
people have varying opinions on that too. Yeah, but I think
so. He's just like no.
But the other part of it though was because it was the backlash that happened over all of the moderation stuff was all right, well, if I cut moderation and suddenly advertisers started pulling out because they were like, well, I don't want my multinational brand to be sitting right alongside hate speech on a platform
in a cesspool,
right? And I get it, I completely understand that, but then people are mad at the advertisers, how dare you pull out? I'm like, well, again. This is that tricky rope that I think social media has to play, and it's why so many others have decided to land on moderation of some sort because they're like, well, we need advertisers in order to function. But if the advertisers are pulling out because they don't want to be associated with the stuff that we're allowing on our platform, then I don't know. It's this whole downward spiral.
It's fascinating. It is. But
apparently today they released their latest report, or actually for the first time in a while, a report on their moderation practices and what's going on the platform. And it's all over the place. And there was a dramatic uptick in content that was, I'm not going to display what it is, but very vile content that people were putting out there, that apparently the number of people that had to be removed or blocked because of that content grew dramatically from last year to this year, which again tells me something's going wrong, that more people feel that they can come on there and put out this awful content. But I don't know, man.
Bots can, is it even real? Don't know.
I cut ties with the site months ago. I have not looked back. I don't care. But it's just, to me, I think the story of Twitter and X probably might be the foundational, interesting story of the highest highs and the possibilities of social media and the absolute lowest lows of where it could end up.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. Well, but what's fascinating is a lot of people still get their news there. So as a news medium, like instantaneously, it's still very powerful.
It is. And everything else that's what I used to enjoy it for.
Everything else is theater. And it gets ugly. And it's like, but people are ugly. Society clearly can get very ugly. So it is fascinating. Yeah.
There you go. So
there you go.
That's what's TEConnecting with us right now. Hey, it is time for us to unplug. But until next time, go check out all those videos about VARTECH. We'd love to get
our sponsors again for VARTECH.
Yes, we very much thank you. We appreciate you. Give us your ideas for next year's show. We look forward to getting started soon on
2025.
Planning for that one because we've barely recovered from this one. And as always, folks, please stay connected. TEConnect Podcast is brought to you by ELO. Elevate your customers' applications with ELO's 04 and 54 series interactive touchscreen displays with support for up to 40 simultaneous touches. I still don't know 40? How that happens. How do you have 40 touches on something at the same time?
I only have 10 fingers. I mean,
I was telling you about my son's birthday party.
That's true. Yes.
6 crazy children running around.
They can accommodate this.
I guess maybe if they all decided to touch a screen at the same time, this could accommodate that.
Only with ELO. There you go.
Lightning fast responsiveness, anti-friction glass. The 04 series prioritizes the user experience. By combining the touch display with ELO backpack or a bright sign player, you can effortlessly convert these displays into versatile life-size 32, 43, 50, or 55-inch tablets.
Nice.
Yeah, 55-inch tablet. That's some serious gaming you could do on that.
Yes.
Give that to somebody and let them go wild with, Roblox or something on there.
No doubt.
The back of the display has never looked so clean. VISA for PC mounting, power brick and power cable mounting, external PC power pass-through, and contained cable routing eliminates the mess of cords and bulky attachments. ELO View remote management, up to 4 EdgeConnect peripherals, touch-through PCAP glass, landscape, portrait, tabletop orientations, and durable long performance built for 24/7 high-traffic environments. The 04 and 54 series displays are perfect for retail, wayfinding, healthcare, hospitality, and more. Check out the link in the show notes or contact the BlueStar ELO team to learn more.